This isn't a typical review. There are no spoilers here in this video, and I'm not walking you through mechanics or through systems here in Ghost of Yotei. This is about the experience, what Ghost of Yotei feels like for the player and why it leaves such a lasting impression. Ghost of Yotei is more than a story about revenge, it's an experience built on trust. If you played Ghost of Tsushima, you already know what Sucker Punch is capable of doing, but here they take that same foundation and refine it into something quieter, more confident, and far more intentional. When you first arrive in the land of Ezo, the game doesn't rush you forward or funnel you toward a specific objective. It simply places you in the world and steps back. There's no direct path you're told to follow, no sense that you're playing the right way. Instead, progress comes naturally as you explore, learn the terrain, and grow familiar with the rhythms of the world around you. What makes exploration in Ghost of Yotei feel so rare is that it isn't locked behind artificial upgrades or story gates. From the very first moments, you're free to move in any direction, to wander, to get lost. The game doesn't ask you to earn permission to explore. That freedom allows the story to unfold organically, shaped by curiosity rather than obligation. Comparing this to a game like the God of War series highlights just how different these philosophies really are. In God of War, it is a tightly crafted cinematic experience, but its exploration is heavily controlled. Entire areas are inaccessible until you unlock specific abilities through mandatory story progression. The world opens slowly on the game schedule, reinforcing the idea that exploration is something you do when the narrative allows you to do it. That structure isn't necessarily broken, but it is very restrictive. Over time, gating exploration behind upgrades trains players to wait instead of wander. Curiosity becomes conditional. Exploration turns into a checklist rather than an instinct, something you return to later instead of something that feels alive in the moment. Ghost of Yotei rejects that idea entirely. Instead of using upgrades as keys, it allows familiarity to be the progression. You don't explore because the game tells you it's time to explore. You explore because the world invites you to do it. That design choice creates a sense of immersion that's increasingly rare in modern open world games. Very few games manage this level of freedom without losing focus. Death Stranding 2 is one of the only other recent examples where movement itself feels meaningful throughout the game, where the act of traversing the world becomes part of the experience rather than a means to an end. Ghost of Yotei achieves something very similar. It's a game that allows you to disappear into its world for hours, not because it overwhelms you with content, but because it respects your pace. Ultimately, this is what sets Ghost of Yotei apart from other games. It doesn't try to manage the player's experience, it trusts it. And in doing so, it creates something far more immersive than a checklist of mechanics ever could. It's a world you don't just play in, it's a world that you inhabit. That same philosophy of trust doesn't just stop at exploration, it extends directly into how Ghost of Yotei approaches combat. The game doesn't treat combat as a system you master through menus or upgrades, but as an extension of how well you've come to understand the world. As you move through Ezo, new combat options aren't handled to you through mandatory story beats, they're discovered organically through exploration. Weapons aren't framed as rewards for progress, they're tools waiting to be found. Each one subtly changes how encounters feel, not by overpowering enemies, but by giving you more expressive ways to respond to them. What's important is that the game never forces you to seek these tools out. You'll encounter enemies before you're fully equipped, and these encounters can feel tense, even overwhelming at times, but combat is never impossible without those weapons. That tension isn't there to punish you, it's there to communicate something to you. If a fight feels difficult, the game isn't telling you that you failed, it's gently suggesting that there's more of the world left to uncover. Instead of locking progress behind upgrades, Ghost of Yotei uses friction as guidance. Difficulty becomes feedback, and the solution isn't grinding experience or following a prescribed path, it's curiosity. The answer to most combat challenges isn't found in a menu or online in some form, but somewhere out in the world, hidden behind a trail you haven't followed yet or a corner you haven't yet explored. This design choice creates a powerful gameplay loop. Exploration informs combat, and combat reinforces exploration. Every challenge encourages you to step back into the land of Ezo, to engage with it more deeply, and to return with a better understanding of the world and your place within it. Because of that, combat never feels separate from the experience. It feels integrated. It respects the same pacing, the same restraint, and the same trust that defines the rest of the game. Ghost of Yotei doesn't try to control how you fight, it gives you space to adapt, to experiment, and to grow naturally. And that's what makes its combat so effective. Not because it's flashy or complex, but because it reinforces the game's central belief that the player is capable of finding their own way, both in the world and in battle. And by the time Ghost of Yotei reaches its end, what stays with you isn't a single mission, weapon, or mechanic, it's the journey that you just did. The hours spent moving through Ezo feel like you lived it yourself. It's not rushed. The game gives you space to move, to observe, and to exist within its world without constantly pulling you forward. What makes that journey impactful is how it mirrors real growth. You don't become stronger because the game tells you that you are now stronger. You become stronger because you learned the land, you adapted to its challenges, and you found your own rhythm. Progress feels earned through experience and not handed out through the new systems. That sense of impact lingers after the credits roll, certain paths feel familiar, certain moments stay with you, and the game never needs to remind you of what you accomplished, because the journey itself becomes the reward. Ghost of Yotei doesn't measure progress through checklists or completion percentages, it measures it through presence, through how deeply you engage with the world and how much trust you were given along the way, and that's what makes the experience resonate long after the game ends. Ghost of Yotei ultimately feels like a masterclass in open world design, not because of its scale, but because of how deeply it trusts the player to figure it out. It lets you slow down, get lost, and fully immerse yourself in a world that feels intentional and alive. Everything we talked about in this video, trust, restraint, and player freedom, comes together here in this game, making it an experience I genuinely think every single gamer should play. And if this perspective resonated with you, the video on your screen right now goes even deeper. In that video, I break down how roguelikes are reshaping creativity in gaming. Click it to keep the conversation going, and I see you over there. Peace.